because the Patriot Act, enacted shortly after 9/11, would allow evidence from these illegal phone taps to be used to prosecute people. Now, we all know what happened on 9/11. Everybody in this room, even though there are so many young people here, God bless Ron Paul for all the youth that have joined this liberty movement. Because the Patriot Act, which was enacted in the hysteria after 9/11, was enacted as follows. No member of Congress was permitted to read the Patriot Act before voting on it. Well, no member of Congress was permitted to read the 1,049-page so-called stimulus nonsense that they voted on the other day before voting on it, because it was posted for 2 hours. Who could read 1,000 pages in 2 hours? The Patriot Act was posted on the House intranet for 15 minutes before members of the House had to vote on it. Patriot Act had no debate over it on the floor of the House. The Patriot Act allows the government to break into your house without a search warrant, to plant a bug under your bedpost or your kitchen table, and to listen to whatever it wants to hear for over 18 months. The Patriot Act permits the government to use illegally obtained evidence against you in a criminal prosecution. The Patriot Act allows FBI agents on their own to bypass the Fourth Amendment requirement of a warrant signed by a judge on probable cause by permitting the government on its own to dispatch its agents to surveil you and to listen to you and to use that evidence obtained against you in a criminal prosecution. So the right that Justice Brandeis so valued was destroyed by an act of Congress which only 2 members of Congress have conceded that they since had the time to read. That's the government that was delivered to us shortly after 9/11. But think about it, when the president gets on the television and scares people, they let their guard down. Not you folks in this room, and not those of us whose jobs it is to call to the attention of the public every single violation of the natural law and every single violation of our constitutional liberties that we can. But the great masses out there, when scared, will let down their guard and repose their safety in the hands of the government. The government can't deliver the mail. Who would trust the government? On December 13th, 2003, the Congress enacted the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal 03, a very, very boring, dull piece of legislation that goes on for hundreds and hundreds of pages. One of those things that was enacted by voice vote. Nobody really paid much attention to it until a reporter for an unknown publication noticed it in the Federal Register about a month later in January, that in there was a definition for financial institution. You see, one of the things that the Patriot Act allowed was self-written search warrants on financial institutions. And you may say, well, okay, so they can write their own search warrants without going to a judge, but it's limited to a bank. Well, if that's what financial institution means, then you'd be okay. But in the Intelligence Authorization Act of 03, the following is the definition of a financial institution: a bank, a trust company, a savings and loan, a doctor's office, a lawyer's office, a bodega, a legitimate bank, a restaurant, a hotel, and of course that great financial institution to which we would all repose our fortunes, the post office. So by redefining the word financial institution in a 400-page piece of legislation that no one read, the government gave itself the power to write its own search warrants and seize whatever information it wanted from whatever innocent American there is. Oh, and if you receive one of these self-written search warrants, it's a crime punishable by 5 years in jail for you to tell anyone. So don't count on your friendly banker, or even your physician, or even your dentist, or even your postman to tell you that the government came knocking. Because when the government does come knocking, the first thing it says is, "Thou shalt not speak." If you tell anyone that we have given you this warrant and that you have complied with it, it's 5 years in jail. Now, as far as I know, no one has successfully been prosecuted under this. The government attempted to prosecute, of all things, 3 librarians in Connecticut. Librarians. The government wanted to know who was reading what library books in a government library. And the federal judge in that case made sure that the librarians were not convicted. The government enacted the Military Commissions Act of 2006, which has the greatest perversion of American justice you can imagine. One would think if one's acquitted of a crime in the United States of America, you're set free. The Military Commissions Act of 2006 allows the president to incarcerate you after acquittal, to lock you up and throw away the key for as long as he wishes, even if you've been found not guilty. Now, where is all of this leading us? Well, the legislation enacted in the Bush years has been tested 5 times by the Supreme Court. And even though we have a court appointed by a variety of presidents with a variety of faithfulness or faithlessness to the Constitution, the Bush administration has lost every time it's gone to the Supreme Court. The president wanted the right to lock up enemy combatants and throw away the key. The Supreme Court said 8-1 he cannot. The president wanted the right to prosecute people outside the ordinary criminal justice system. The Supreme Court said he cannot. But we still are left with statutes on the books that permit the violation of our liberties in ways that the public probably doesn't even understand. It is the reason we are here today and now, because the greatest yearning and the greatest aspiration of all human beings is to be and to remain free. Keep liberty in your hearts, as Judge Learned Hand once said. When liberty is in your hearts, no court, no judge, no legislation, no army can take it from you. But when liberty dies in your hearts, when the yearning for liberty dies, then any government and any court and any army can scare it away. And Thomas Jefferson reminded us, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there is liberty.